Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Today, we will name the next Vikings Pro Bowlers in 2024. You don't want to miss that.
Hey, I'm Arif Hasan from Wide Left. I don't know what to do with the cold open. I have information that will lead to the arrest of Sam Ekstrom.
The Lukes are also out of the country on today's Minnesota football party.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota football party.
Yes, it's that time. A new week on Locked On Sports Minnesota. This is the Minnesota football party where we talk Vikings twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, about 11 a.m. for about an hour. That's Arif Hasan, Wide Left Substack. I'm Sam Ekstrom, executive producer here at Locked On Sports Minnesota. Thank you so much for watching us live. We appreciate all of you that are with us. You're engaged. You're commenting in the chat. And thanks for watching us on demand as well at Locked On Sports Minnesota, where you can watch us anytime. We're on the 24/7 stream. We're available on Amazon Fire, Roku devices, and you can listen to us on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts, and the SiriusXM app, our good partner. Lots of ways to watch and listen here at Locked On Sports Minnesota. Today, we make some 2024 Vikings predictions. The theme of the show will be the next Viking to do this ... And we will give our respective nominations. We also sift through the Vikings comp pick drama that bubbled up last week and try to get to the bottom of it. We also hope to hear from Ron Johnson before the show is over and take some fan questions. Today's show is presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150. With any winning $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Arif Hasan at Arif Hasan NFL on X. What do you say we dive right in, Arif? I've got 5 categories. Name a Viking who. That's the name of the game. Name a Viking who ...
I'm excited about this game. On-air production meeting. Did you tweet out the link to the show?
I'm leaving that to you. I will filibuster if you need me to, and I will let you tweet out the link of the show. In fact, it might be hard for you to get the link of the show because I've got YouTube backend access. How about I DM you the link of the show? On-air production meeting, you gotta love it here on the Minnesota football party. So name a Viking who, category number 1. Name a Viking who will make their first Pro Bowl in 2024. Now, we were talking about this pre-show production meeting, and there are a number of good candidates, but we're going to try to nail it down to who the most likely is. Surprisingly, Christian Darrisaw has not made a Pro Bowl in his career. Jonathan Grenard has not made a Pro Bowl in his career. You've also got some fringe candidates, Cam Bynum, who had a very nice 2023. Josh Metellus, a very versatile, I don't know what position he plays necessarily, a very nice 2023. Andrew Van Ginkel has not made a Pro Bowl before. I would say those are all viable candidates, and don't forget about the quarterback, Sam Darnold. But I would settle on Christian Darrisaw because I think the Pro Bowl is about 1 year behind. I think it's about 1 year behind of when you are deserving as a candidate. I think Christian Darrisaw 100% was deserving last year. I think you could have made a case at various points during the year that he was one of the best left tackles in football. Certainly top 3, certainly willing or certainly worthy of being a Pro Bowl backup or alternate. And maybe it was a weird year for the Pro Bowl where there weren't as many alternates because it's not a game anymore. Like, it's not a real football game. People are more likely to show up. They get named. They go play the games. It's easier to just be part of the festivities now than it used to be. So I'm going to go with Darrisaw this year. Even if he plays worse, I think the recognition for him is better. I think that he would get more of the locker room votes because guys look at the list and they say, oh, Christian Darrisaw, he was good last year. I've heard of his name. It's a very unscientific process, Arif, but I'm going to go with Darrisaw as my first-time Pro Bowler for the Vikings.
I think it's great. I think that's the easiest one to take. I think the one dark horse you forgot to mention is Kenny Nwangwu, who his rookie year had a really good shot at making a Pro Bowl as a kick returner. Did not make it. I suspect that if he had played one or two more games, probably two more games, he would have made it. But because he had a better average than Keyshawn Nixon as a kick returner, who deserved to make it. That's not the issue. But also had like 2 touchdowns, right? And with the new kickoff rules, it's very possible that Nwangwu to make the roster, which is an open question. He'll have a lot of opportunities to kind of demonstrate that he deserves to make it. Now, the problem, of course, is that like Nixon's an even better returner than he was before, so it's going to be tough. But I think that that's a player to at least note as a potential Pro Bowler. But at playing football positions that matter on offense and defense, I'd say besides Darrisaw, Grenard is a really great addition. I think that for both of them, it kind of follows the pattern that very often we see people make the Pro Bowl for the prior year rather than the year that they're playing in. I think that that's become less true now than it was a decade ago. It was certainly very true a decade ago. For example, I think that Chad Greenway finally made a Pro Bowl after the year after his tremendous season. It was 2010 season. He made the Pro Bowl, I believe, in 2011, if I remember correctly. And he'd already begun kind of falling off a little bit, in my opinion. I was alone in that opinion. He'd already begun falling off a little bit. As usual. A little bit by then. But, I mean, we see this happen every so often, especially along the offensive line. Players that it'll take a year or so to make the Pro Bowl. So I think Grenard is probably the next best one. I think it'd be very funny if Sam Darnold made the Pro Bowl. For I think very obvious reasons, it's funny. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of potential firsts. I was looking it up. Aaron Jones already has made a Pro Bowl, so unfortunate that we can't include him on the list. But a lot of potential candidates here. Ivan Pace, maybe a dark horse, make a Pro Bowl.
Yes. I think Ivan Pace could definitely be a dark horse. Again, that's one of those where I don't know if the name recognition is there yet. It's unfortunate that has to be the criteria. We did get a question here. Will Harrison Smith get a legacy Pro Bowl invite? I don't think this is like Leo DiCaprio getting sort of the lifetime recognition, like Best Actor award, because Harrison Smith has made it 6 times. Most recently in 2021. And also, we don't know if he's done this year. It's not, if this was an announced farewell tour season, I could see it. If the red carpet was rolled out for the whole year, everybody knew he was hanging it up. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think we're ever going to know that he's playing in his final season.
Yeah. We're just going to find out at the end of the year. Yeah.
He's gotten his flowers pretty regularly for the last 12 years.
I don't think they're asking like, is he gonna get like a pity invite or anything like that. I think he's asking like, is he just gonna get in because he's Harrison Smith? And I think that's a fair question. I don't know. The safeties in the league have gotten a little bit better. I mean, there's been kind of a vacuum of safety talent since like the retirements of like Eric Weddle and them. But I don't know. There's like a lot of safety talent in the NFL right now. So I don't know that he'll get in just because he'll get in. Unless he grabs like 6 picks, in which case you're not really going to have to look at much of the other stats. People are just going to like 6 picks. All right, yeah, let's put him in. That's Harrison, maybe like, it might push him over the edge if he's close.
Harrison needs the Donatel defense back to get 6 picks. He needs to just play that center field position. TBD screen name wondering, could Najee make the Pro Bowl?
He's good enough.
When they vote, would someone who's just basically a gunner gather enough?
Now that Matthew Slater is retired and a coach now, I think.
Yeah.
Not that they were competing directly because he was AFC. There's only 1 year where you didn't have an AFC NFC designation, right? I think like there's just like a lot of people will want to start figuring out maybe who the best special teamer is. I don't know. Najee Thompson is talented enough, but like usually someone builds a legacy of being good at that thing before they consistently make it. Like Slater, people by the end, people were voting for Slater because they were like, that's the name I recognize for this position. So I don't know, maybe, but that's a tough one to predict or lobby for.
Because this came up, I'm going to move down our list of name a Viking who, and I'm going to go to this question, which I had scripted out. Who will be this year's Najee Thompson, the new special teams ace? In addition to Najee can still be an ace, but who's going to be the new one? I've got a name, and I don't know if he makes the team, but he could make it strictly as a special teamer. And I don't think the Vikings are that deep at linebacker either.
Dallas Gant? Oh.
No, but maybe. I did I scoured the college special team stats from last year. That doesn't mean everything. I couldn't find any current Vikings like UDFAs that were in the top 200 on PFF. Mm-hmm. Again, not everything. Somebody who does have a special teams track record, Camu Grugier-Hill. And by the way, he turns 30 years old on Thursday. Veteran linebacker. Who's been with 5 teams in the last 5 years, the ultimate journeyman, a one-time special teams ace with Philadelphia, where he was doing everything. I mean, he was on every unit, 343 special team snaps in 2017, 341 special team snaps in 2018, where he was legitimately a top 15, top 20 special teams guy in the NFL. Now he's bounced around. His role has been smaller with other teams, but he has that in him. So that would be my dark horse if he were to make this roster for depth at linebacker. Camu Grugier-Hill could surprise some people as a special teamer.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I feel like he is attempted to make his way by special teams for a little bit. Obviously, he had the 1 year where he did really well. I picked Dallas Gant because he has 791 special team snaps. Now, mind you, he did play 6 years of college football, a thing that can happen now, but not for much longer. He played, again, by PFF grades, which for this more than anything else, but also for everything, are not the end-all be-all and are particularly subject to whatever problems, right? But he did have his best special teams grades in PFF's database while playing for Ohio State before he transferred to Toledo, which, arguably that's transferable, but certainly it's interesting that at a higher level in Big Ten competition, he did fairly well on special teams. So he has a lot of special team snaps. He understands the importance of it. Even his senior year as a starting linebacker, he played on special teams. And that was the thing that Luke Braun found so intriguing about Najee Thompson when he called his shot. Right, was that Thompson understood the value of special teams, lived for special teams, was very excited about it, and had a ton of experience doing it. Right, and I don't remember what Thompson's PFF grade was on special teams as a young player. Maybe you could look it up right now. But it wouldn't shock me if it wasn't particularly great, just because again, that's an area where it's really difficult to get accurate or good grading. So for me, it's Dallas Gant. Plus, it kind of matches with hey, this is an undrafted free agent with a ton of special team snaps. Kind of matches that profile, right? So that's kind of the direction I wanted to go in. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm checking on Najee, who again played for Georgia Southern. It was very confusing at the time, and this is why Luke Braun calling his shot was so impressive, because Najee really did not do anything as a defensive back. He's from a small school. Hard to tell whether those special team skills would even translate from Georgia Southern to the NFL. Clearly they did, but he had some very impressive special teams priors. Just looking at the PFF numbers, even better than Dallas Gant. But I like that call out. I think this is a year where you could see 2 or 3 or 4 UDFAs making this Vikings roster just based on the width or breadth of UDFAs that they brought in. 17 of them, I think it was.
Yeah, 17 plus. I mean, you take a look at the depth chart. There's a lot of spaces available. Yeah.
Let's go to this one. Name a Viking who ... will get traded before the season. This is where I look to the 2022 draft class. Kwesi has a bit of a tell.
Oh, he likes an Andrew Booth or a Lewis Cine kind of guy?
Yep, you named 2 good ones right there. I think that Kwesi has recognized that, okay, it's after 2 years is a good time to acquire somebody via trade, as he's done a number of times. Would he also be looking to ship someone out after a couple of years on the team if they aren't a fit? I'm going to go Brian Asamoah.
Oh,
Brian
I like
Asamoah.
that because the problem is that there's not like a ton of linebacker help right now, right? And you just mentioned it, right? I mean, it's possible that Asamoah could like get a start. Like, obviously, I know Cashman's there and they want to get pace in there, but like getting a heavy rotation in theory shouldn't be that hard. So I don't know if they think they can convince other teams he's a starting capable linebacker, and he would only be a bench player. Maybe I like that one. The more I think about it, the more difficult it would be to convince another team that this is like a really great guy. So you probably would get a late, not like a late, but like a fifth, right? Like a mid-late type pick for him. So, which obviously your pick investment was a third. But yeah, that's a good one. I think that somebody like a Lewis Cine would make a lot of sense. Just first round pick, people always value those. He doesn't have, like, obviously he has this catastrophic injury, but he doesn't have the injury history that goes all the way back to high school and into the NFL that Andrew Booth does. So it would be, I think, an easier sell, right? Because like the reason Andrew Booth fell in the draft, I guess we don't technically know all of the reasons everybody falls in the draft, but the purported reason that Andrew Booth fell in the draft is that injury history was so concerning for a lot of teams, and it kind of bore out once he was in the NFL. And so I think having those concerns validated makes him more difficult to trade. So somebody like a Lewis Cine makes a lot of sense. I think it'd be funny if they traded Shaq Griffin right after signing him just to get the comp pick back.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, but that's kind of the I think having those kind of looking at the 2022 draft class and saying, hey, that fourth round pick worked out really well, but man, the first and the first, second, and the third, boy, that one's rough.
I think Cine is very likely, and I'm sorry, very likely makes it sound like a certainty. I think he is maybe
relatively speaking of players that could be traded before
first round picks. Yeah, I think that he would be very high on the list. I feel like his tape is worse than Asamoah's, who did a lot. If you're watching 2022 tape, I think you could convince yourself that you've got a player, and you would maybe give up more to get him. Granted, not as much positional value at interior linebacker, but again, neither is safety a particularly high value position unless you are an absolute star. So I think that's you're not going to get a mother load either way with these guys. But I don't know if there is an Ezra Cleveland, like a current starter, who's going to get dealt like Ezra Cleveland did last year. Looking at,
so we got a commenter saying, like a sexy orange is saying, Ed Ingram for the chaos. It would be very funny as a repeat of the Ezra Cleveland thing, which, man, it was such a miscalculation to trade Ezra Cleveland. In my opinion, maybe they're happy with the results, but to me, that looked like a pretty big miscalculation.
Did they do the exact same thing and bring
fun.
in Reisner and trade Ingram?
But at right guard,
right guard.
Hey, man, we did the thing. Come on in.
All right. We got a good routine going here. Let's do it. We don't love you enough to get you in for training camp, right? Or in fact, Dalton, we love you too much to bring you in for training camp.
We wouldn't do that to you.
The special veterans treatment. We've got more categories. Name a Viking who will fail to meet expectations this year. Also, we predict our Mr. Mankato next on the Minnesota Football Party. We are presented by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only. Available to U.S. customers. Welcome back, Minnesota Football Party. Locked On Sports Minnesota. Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Ron Johnson is set to join. We can join our categories. Name a Viking who on the Minnesota Football Party. Ron Johnson in right now. He's at 3 Ron Johnson on X, host of the Ron Johnson Show, which airs on Tuesdays on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Ron, how are we?
Sorry.
There he is.
I'm good. The Timberwolves are really depressing me right now. So,
are these the funeral clothes? The black hoodie, the sunglasses?
Yeah. I feel like we're going to bury this season.
You sound morose. You sound positively morose.
Screw that. We're winning it in 6. Timberwolves.
I knew it.
I might turn this around. Win one in Denver. Come home and win one in Minnesota. Let's do this. Anthony, the Edward, the Ant. Man, we got this. But no, I'm good. Having a good day. Can't complain. My daughter has 2 softball games today for high school because Minnesota was raining all of May. Like, I know it was supposed to be April showers, May flowers. No. It's been May showers. So it's been a bad early May, a bad April as well. So my kid has 13 high school games in 2 weeks. It's ridiculous. So how's it going?
A lot of softball. It's going well.
A lot of softball. I get a text message from the Minnesota Vikings. We have now changed our schedule for the schedule release show. So we're going to be shooting earlier in the day. So I am definitely tight-lipped. But I'm looking forward to Friday's roundtable. I can't leak anything, but I do know the games I'm excited about. Can't wait to shoot this on Wednesday.
Ooh, Ron's got the scoops.
Right.
Well, Ron, we were going through some Vikings categories for 2024. We've done who will make their first Pro Bowl this year, who is going to be this year's special teams ace. Let me bounce a couple of these off you. Let me get your thought on the Pro Bowler. First time Pro Bowler this year. So candidates that we came up with: Grenard, Bynum, Metellus, Darisaw, Van Ginkel. None have made a Pro Bowl before. Who do you think will make their first one this season?
The problem with Darisaw is health. And you also have a lot of good tackles in the NFC. The one that I think should go, but it's gonna come down to like fan recognition. And it could be tough, but Josh Metellus, I think, deserves to go. The problem is they keep trying to like not give him position. So then what do you put him in as? Because when I talked to him at the draft party, I just asked him because we were joking around about social media and I'm like, hey man, you should come on my show, blah, blah. And because he's been on it before, but I'm like, now come back so we can have fun. Like he came on as a Viking and I had to keep the questions real Viking-ish. But I'm like, dude, let's just come on the show and have some fun. Like, let's talk about you being a Swiss Army knife and talk about, you attacking everybody on social media like PFF. And he said that the way PFF does it, which maybe the NFL just piggybacks or the voters, they don't have him lining up enough at safety to put him in as a safety. They also don't have him lining up enough as a linebacker to be in as a linebacker. They also don't have him lined up enough at nickel to be a nickel. So it's like he plays every position well, but doesn't play enough of that position as far as lining up to get what he should get. And because he said, like, they were talking about the top safeties or whatever interceptions. And he's like, man, I swear I have more interceptions than all those guys. And he does. But they were like, well, we technically didn't call you a safety. You lined up at safety this many times. You lined up at linebacker this many. Where were the interceptions at? Where was he lined up when he got the pick? My guess is at safety, so shut up. But anyway, that's a different question. But I think Josh Metellus, I think it's either him or Darisaw, in my opinion.
I'm looking at the PFF on Metellus right now. 377 snaps last year in the box as a linebacker, so to speak. 396 as a slot corner, and true safety, they've got him at like 100 snaps.
Yeah.
Like very rarely was he in a true safety spot, but that's a lot of safeties though. A lot of safeties. Harrison Smith.
It's very characteristic of safeties. Yeah, Harrison Smith in the Zimmer years did that a lot. Derwin James does that a lot, and we call them safeties. Antoine
Imagine
Winfield
telling
plays
Troy
a ton
Polamalu
of nickel corner, right?
Troy Polamalu lined up in the box most of the time, or Ryan Clark, and both of those guys are just safeties. Like,
Yeah,
this is dumb.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Let me ask you this one, Ron. New category. Arif hasn't answered this either. I haven't answered this, but every year, fans and pundits, we do the Mr. Mankato prediction. Who's going to be the star of training camp? Either a rookie or a young player who hasn't established themselves yet. Do you have any early predictions, Ron, on Mr. Mankato? And Arif, I want yours ready as well.
So, Mr. Egan, are we changing the name now?
I mean, we can never.
We've had this
change
discussion before. Yeah, we're keeping the name.
Mr. Mankato in Egan.
In Egan. Brought to you by Egan.
Brought to you by Egan, the TCO Performance Center. A rookie that could be Mr. Mankato. I got to go with my guy Kyrie Jackson. Like I feel like with these receivers, he's going to have special teams. He's going to and I'm not going to say like Chris Boyd was a different type of like he loved the fans. Kyrie Jackson coming out of Oregon, like I could see him being flashy, being like that DB that pisses off the receivers. The DB that has to be told you don't come within a foot of Justin Jefferson ever. I feel like he could be that guy, but I think about special teams. We've seen those special teams practices go like nuts when they go full go with gunners and stuff. And we know he's going to be a hold up guy and a gunner. So I think he could probably captivate the fans with some interceptions and one-on-ones, and some tough special teams practices. And then I think media availability, he's going to be one of the rookies that's thrust, other than JJ McCarthy, that's thrust into that, like, hey, go over there and get interviewed. So I think he has a chance to kind of, maybe being a Caleb Evans with a voice, I guess I'll call him.
Yeah, I remember Cam Dantzler's rookie year. There was a period of time in training camp where all the hype was about Cam Dantzler. Whoa, this
then they played the Lions, and then it was like, okay,
corner. Yeah, like people were really pumped about Dantzler. I don't know if he won the award that year, but he was definitely in the mix, and I think Jackson profiles similarly. Arif, who would you go with?
I was going to pick Kyrie Jackson. I think he's the most obvious candidate, so it's tough. If I were to pick somebody besides Jackson, I mean, there's not a lot of mid-late round picks to look at. Will Reichard, I don't think a kicker's ever won it. I don't think a kicker's going to win it.
Unless he kicks a 70-yard field goal. I mean,
everything's possible, right? What do we have left? Like Levi, Drake, Rodriguez, a couple of offensive linemen that are not going to play right away. So if I'm going to pick somebody who's probably a UDFA, I think I'm going to pick someone who's exciting, potential for a lot of highlights. I think Ty James, the Mercer receiver, right? I think he got like 1,200 yards. But the thing is, he's exciting. You can have him do like end arounds, and he'll probably be competing at the kick return position. So at Mercer, Devron James was the kick returner. But I think that or Devron Harper. Yeah, I think that you could have both of them compete at kick return. They're both very explosive players. They both have that kind of body type that'll allow you to do that. And if Kenny Nwangwu doesn't make the team, one of them could be the returner under this new kickoff rule. And if James has just a couple of banger returns, I could see him, winning Mr. Mankato if he ends up making the team. So, if Kyrie Jackson doesn't get a ton of play or doesn't get a ton of picks, because that's like usually what drives a defensive Mr. Mankato selection, then Ty James is entirely, on the table there.
Yeah, I like that, Arif. I'm also obsessed with trying to figure out who the next young receiver is going to be. This really should be Ron's category because he has a trained eye. He's a receiver himself. But I always try to figure out who the next like KJ Osborne is or next Chad Beebe, someone that we don't expect who comes onto the scene. And Luke Inman and I have been on the Malik Knowles bandwagon since he was a UDFA last year.
Knowles got a call out, right? Just the other day from
by the head coach.
KOC. Yeah.
We loved the way he looked at Kansas State. He was a jet sweep guy. He was a kick return guy, and he's an all-purpose yards guy. And 6'2", like big frame, almost 200 pounds. Didn't test at the combine because of his injury. So I don't know if he has all the measurables out there, but the tape looks really good. I love Malik Knowles as a possible breakthrough at wide receiver to compete with, the Trent Sherfields and the Tristan Jacksons. I think he could make a splash as well. So there are the early Mr. Mankato predictions with the obvious, asterisk that we can change our minds later on. But one more category to run by you, Ron. This one, I got to have one negative category. Who are you afraid is going to fail to meet the expectations this year? Somebody that's got kind of a high bar set and you're a little worried about their ability to meet it.
I mean, the easy one is JJ McCarthy, but I'm not going to even go there. But I mean, he has a super high bar. And again, I go to all, I think one of his throws was to a coach that ended up on Twitter and he missed the coach. Like the coach was off to the left. He kind of threw it to the right.
It was a left. Yep.
Yeah. And everybody's tweeting, "Oh, JJ McCarthy in full season form." Shut up.
I hope that wasn't Reggie Wilson's crew, Ron. You told them specifically.
I know. I told Reggie specifically not to do that. No, I can't remember. I think it was NFL.com, which I think, or no, it was freaking. I hate to even do this to them. It's our guys at FanDuel. And so I don't know where they got the video from. I think it was FanDuel because they were talking about odds or something, or JJ McCarthy, get your odds in. So maybe they're trying to get people to bet against JJ so they know they can win because they know he's a winner. So if they did, hats off to FanDuel for fooling everybody. I don't know that
FanDuel social is that locked in.
They're trying to set the bar low so everybody's like, I want to bet against JJ McCarthy. I don't like his odds. And meanwhile, somebody in Minnesota is cleaning up on JJ's odds. I will take him at plus 2,000 to do something. So I get it, but I think JJ McCarthy's one. Another one, I don't really see Dallas Turner. It would be impossible to not do well in this offense or defense. Sorry, when you think about what they're doing. Same with Kyrie Jackson. Unless you're just absolutely inept as far as thinking. And Oregon's defense was kind of similar to Flores's, where the DBs kind of played cover, they stayed off and played coverage. And a lot of his interceptions were in zone. So it seems like he fits that long, can jam a guy up, can drop back into a zone. The one that I think is going to be fun to watch would be Will Ricard, the kicker from Alabama. That's the one that I think people are expecting. You drafted the kicker, he's got to come in. It doesn't always work out again. And I hope we don't have a Daniel Carson situation. I hope, Kevin O'Connell handles it better. But that's the other one. I'm I hope this kid doesn't come in and just completely just miss everything. The first training camp day when they do kicking, people are going to be dialed in on that because Minnesotans are so the world, the sky is falling. And so the minute a kicker misses, and imagine this summer, if the Timberwolves losing 6, it's just going to add to the negativity of this town.
I mean, it's entirely possible that the Vikings, it doesn't work out with Will Reichert. They let him go. And Will Reichert replaces Anders Carlson in Green Bay, who did not pick all of his extra points last year.
Who is Daniel Carlson's brother? It all connects. Yeah.
Wow. So it's all. So
Daniel Carlson laid this trap a long time ago.
Yeah. It's a web of pain. Yeah, for sure. Will Reichert is probably my pick for not meeting expectations. But if we want to move it away from rookies, I think Ed Ingram is a good possibility. Yeah,
that's
because
too. That's very scary.
Yeah, especially because the Vikings, they got rid of Ezra Cleveland, and so there's not
just signed for big money.
Yeah, not a ton of interior talent there. And so if Ed Ingram doesn't work out, now you're stuck we've got these elite tackles, but we can't build a foundation for them. He improved a lot during the season, but a lot of times I've noticed that players that play poorly in the first half of the season, really well in the second half of the season, very often don't fulfill that improvement that they made in the second half of the season, often revert to the form that they had prior to that. It's really frustrating, of course, I'm sure for the player, but also for fans, that this happens a lot. And, I don't know that we've seen enough from Ingram to know that he's a good player yet. And so that is my concern. And also, I don't know, my pick because I'm pessimistic.
Yeah. And I think you could make a similar case for Blake Brandel at left. If he's your left guard too, haven't seen it from him in a large enough sample size to trust that that's going to work out. And I guess it might work itself out because he's going to get so many competitive reps with the ones. And if he can't handle it, then he won't be the starter. They would go with someone else. They'd go with Feeney. They'd go with, I don't know, the rookie Jurgens, or bring in somebody off the street. Like, they probably wouldn't go with Brandel if he doesn't look good. But I'm worried about maybe his elevation into that role. I've got an off-the-wall question for you, Ron, but you're a numbers guy. Seeing these highlights of Dallas Turner wearing number 15 out there as an edge rusher, I'm not on board. I'm not on board with the teens for these edge rushers. So how are you? It weirds me out, Ron. How do you feel about this?
It's the new NFL. Like, I mean, I think Patrick Queen, 6? So it kind of started there with the linebackers, and
the 6 looks good on him.
It does, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just the linebackers. Like, I remember when I was in Baltimore, and like the linebackers would switch on, was it Thursdays, I think, or Fridays, whatever day we didn't wear full pads, the linebackers would switch with single-digit guys, or they would just steal single digits from the equipment room. And all the linebackers would and it wouldn't be every week because they wanted to keep Brian Billick on his toes, but they would switch, and then also like try to line up. Like, I remember like Matt Stover, somebody like tried to put his jersey on and go like kick kicks and warm-ups and see if Billick would notice. But I remember like Ray Lewis, he wanted to wear his number 2. And then you had, Bart Scott, and then you had Ed Hartwell, and you had, you got Terrell Suggs, and all these guys start coming out, and they would do, because the Steelers, if you guys remember back in the day with the steel curtain, after the steel curtain, they were the first group of linebackers with Greg Lloyd, Kevin, I forgot his name, but they all wore 90s numbers. And so from the D-line to the linebackers, everybody in that front 7 wore a 90s number, and they did it on purpose. Kevin Green. And Greg Lloyd, that's what it was. And they purposely did this. You read the story, like Bill Cowher talks about this. They purposely did that because they realized standing their linebackers up, it was they were one of the first groups to do it before Rex Ryan. They got it from Buddy Ryan, though, but before Rex Ryan created it, it was the Steelers back in like the 90s. They wanted to confuse the offensive lineman. So if he said Mike 94 or Mike 92, once they start moving, they would be like, I mean, and again, I hate to use the word, linemen are smart. We know some smart. They'd be like, these guys are dumb. Like, they're not going to remember which 90 number. They don't know who the Mike was. And back then, it kind of proved true to the Steelers, and they end up going to the Super Bowl. And then, I mean, I'm not going to even go into that. Neil O'Donnell completely like throws interceptions and gets paid off. He was bookie in Vegas. Like, nobody was even out there. Sorry. For people that don't remember that Super Bowl, I do, because my dad, like, he went to all the Steelers Super Bowls. Again, nothing. We're not going to go there.
You sound traumatized.
Nobody was out there, though. Like, honestly, like it reminds me of like John Gruden Super Bowl with Tampa when Dwight Smith, came to the Vikings. He was just standing out there, and Rich Gannon was like, "Oh, here you go, White. Like, take it, man. Take it, D." Like, nobody was out there. You threw 2 interceptions to Dwight Smith. Like, he threw an interception to the Cowboys, and nobody was in the flat. It was almost like Kirk Cousins checking down for no reason. Like, there's nobody out there. Why are you doing that? But anyway, so when the Ravens did it, it was to confuse their offensive linemen in practice and just have fun. I could see that, like, number 15, technically, like, is that a DB? Who is that coming off? Is that a corner crash? Is that a cat call? Is that like, so in the heat when bullets are flying, I could see it start to mess with people because you're so used to like a 50s number or 40s number for a linebacker. By the way, what number did Ivan Pace change to? Is he 0 now?
0.
Yeah.
Agent 0.
I like that. Agent 0.
Which is
like,
great.
So you got a 0, you got a 15, you got 51 with Blake Cashmere, and Grenard is what, 59 or 58, 59? Something like that.
So you've got Grenard 58, Van Ginkel 43, and 43. Turner 15. So you've got the weirdest trio of edge rushing numbers that the Vikings have ever had.
I'm honestly I'm just so anti 40s for almost every
I hate
player.
40s too. I hate those.
Yeah.
numbers.
So that's like 15 is such like, if those are my options, I'm so happy he took 15. Like, if you're a fullback, fine, take 40 something. I'm fine with that. If you're a box safety, 40 something, great. Other than that, I'm not a 40 series guy at all. So
I'm glad he didn't take 45 because his number ends in 5, and a lot of guys try to get their ending number and then get the new number. I would have been okay with 55, but 45. Like I hated Troy Dye in that. Like it did not look right.
Yeah, it's
Troy
not
Dye-
a good look. I agree.
Troy Dye looked like a long snapper his entire
did.
career.
He didn't
mean,
wear
it-
like tape. He didn't wear gloves. He looked like the player that you get on Madden when you don't like have the money to like add accessories. So you just take the creative player that they give you. It's like put some gloves on or something. Get some wristbands on this dude.
So you,
like,
you only signed like 50 players, so Madden forces you to add a player.
right. And he's the one with nothing
Yeah.
on, just out there looking terrible. Like, oh, what are you doing?
Just generic.
No socks. Like, oh, you look horrible.
Ron Johnson hosts the Ron Johnson Show. He'll be on tomorrow, Tuesday, talking Wolves, talking Vikings, maybe a little Caitlin Clark. Looking forward to that, Ron, and can't wait to watch your coverage of the schedule release this week. That's going to be huge.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. The Vikings, I don't know why they moved our time up earlier in the day. Maybe they're trying to get stuff out so they can start teasing before the 6:59 is the time that everybody can start talking about Central Time.
Sounds about right.
Which is going to get, we know it's going to, like the fact that I know when the facts, quote unquote, is coming to us, just keep an eye Tuesday morning, people. It's going to start to get leaked. Like Tuesday morning, people are going to start to leak it because that's what they do. Like they have a friend, they have Adam Schefter. Like it's going to get leaked Tuesday morning. Somebody's going to like actually tweet probably the whole schedule or something like, here's the Viking schedule. Like, I don't know if I know it, but I think this is it. Shut up. You got it from somebody. You are not psychic. You are a cheater.
I feel like last year we only learned about the Vikings schedule for 3 games, but because of all of the other leaks for all of the other teams, we
Correct.
filled in
Then you figured
the
out
entire schedule for the Vikings. Yeah,
because
before the official
everybody,
announcement.
like I guarantee the Raiders, they're going to leak theirs. Like theirs is going to probably be the first. And then the Falcons, because it might be Kirk Cousins. Kirk is like, oh, y'all want to draft a quarterback? Screw y'all. I'm telling everybody. Like the Falcons is going to come up
as it is. I might as well.
So all you gotta do is look at the Falcons schedule and it's like, oh, they play the Vikings on this day. Okay, that's one. And then you're like, oh, wait, the Packers play okay, we got that. Like it's gonna start to get, and then they're gonna have to, I think they have to start announcing some of these London games anyway. So those are gonna come out tomorrow. So yeah, it's gonna start to figure, people are gonna start to figure it out. And then somebody's gonna just cheat. Because when they launch, my email says when the London stuff gets announced, that means everybody's gotten their schedule. So sometime Tuesday morning, they're gonna have it. We're not shooting ours until Wednesday afternoon, like at 1:00. But trust me, it's not coming Wednesday morning. It's definitely coming Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
But it's supposed to be a secure fax. We'll see.
We'll try to squeeze some leaks out of you, Ron, on the Ron Johnson Show coming up soon.
Nothing for me. I these checks are too good to leak. I'm not gonna be that person because I do know somebody. I'm not gonna say any names that did and they got in trouble. So it's not gonna be me. It's gonna be May. It's not gonna be May.
Not gonna be Drake May. Ron, we'll talk to you again next week on the Minnesota Football Party. Good stuff as usual. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it.
See ya. Quick word, and then we will distill the comp pick drama next. Minnesota Football Party. We are presented by FanDuel today. Winner take all time in the NBA and NHL. FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So you want to get a winning $5 bet, you probably got to bet a sport that's happening right now. How about the NBA? How about the Timberwolves to bounce back against the Nuggets as 4.5-point underdogs tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m.? Get that 150 at FanDuel, and then you can sprinkle that around on the various spreads, the future bets, the basketball, the hockey. FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count and make every moment more. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We got about 4 or 5 minutes, and of course, we're going to spend 1 minute. Macho Meech. Sam, can you share your regiment to maintain a perfect shirt collar? Arif's is troublesome. Yeah,
Mine is fine.
The answer is and Arif's catching a stray here. I feel like my strategy for a lot of my shirts is I don't dry them. I let them air dry. And I think that maintains
That
the
actually probably
integrity of the
makes a
shirt.
huge difference. Yeah, especially the collars.
Yeah.
There's a one shirt that I had that I wore for like a CBS Sports television interview,
Mhm.
and it was just a mess here. It was just awful. So that's I'm very sensitive to that. So thank you, Macho, for pointing that out. I'm not going to worry about that for the rest of my life. Uh, but but yeah, it's the drying process that really wrinkles these shirts. But hey, this one's really comfortable, so I don't mind.
Yeah, Macho's also calling you out, Arif, for poor coloring, but I feel like you look good. If anything, I
Coloring.
look washed out. I've got the bright lights on me. You have a nice warmth to you.
Yeah, is he talking about the color? I don't see that at all, but if
No.
so,
Nope,
oh
that's
my
the color
gosh.
comment.
Yeah,
I lost it. Might have been somebody else. Um,
I think I look great. I mean, my eyebrows need to be trimmed up, but other than that, I look great.
let's get into this. The comp pick drama. A couple minutes to distill this down. A report indicated that the Vikings signed Shaq Griffin and in essence cost themselves a 3rd round pick. The Vikings counter by saying that they believe that they only were ever going to have 1 3rd round pick, that the Jonathan Grenard signing cancels out the Danielle Hunter loss, both as 3rd round comp picks. And Will Raggett did a good breakdown of this. It sounds like we don't really know for sure because the comp pick formula is determined upon some of the performance in 2024. And Grenard's snap count, total like share of the workload could change based on the comp projections. That's how I'm reading into it. Vikings think they know what's up. They know what's up, and they will get 1 3rd round pick next year. Arif, any insight on this? You have 2 minutes.
No, I find it really funny because it is a secret formula, but the more time that passes, the more we learn about the formula. Not just because, and the person who does this is Nick Corte over at Over the Cap. He used to run his own blog. He'd been tracking comp picks from before even the 2011 CBA, and so obviously it's like changed a lot. But a lot of what I've learned about how the comp pick formula works comes from him. So, for example, he learned at the exact same time that NFL teams have learned. By the way, it is secret to NFL teams. That NFL teams learned that age actually plays a role in the comp pick formula. So there was I think it was like a Steelers player way back. Might not have even been that far back, but I don't think it was Kelvin Beachum, but that's the name in my head. Who had signed? No, it was before that. Who had signed like a deal that by the numbers, by the contract numbers, would have been like a 3rd round compensatory pick, and the Steelers got a 5th for it. And everyone's like, what in the world? And so finally we get confirmation that actually, if you're over 30, there you go. Thank you. Alan Faneca. If you're over 30, it like limits it to a 5th round pick. And everyone's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then somebody got a 3rd round pick for a quarterback. And it's like, well, actually, so it turns out that the 30-year-old limit, that doesn't apply to quarterbacks. And it's like, oh, geez, okay. Great. So it is a secret. And it's a secret to NFL teams. So we learn from not just what ends up happening and who gets what. We also learn from when teams discuss the comp pick formula and when they feel like they get screwed, which happened, I think, last year even. Some teams felt like they got screwed by the formula, like a 3rd rounder, or what should have been a 3rd rounder was like a 4th rounder or something like that. I think that happened to the Bills. And so we're always kind of back casting and guessing. So the Vikings don't know. Corte doesn't know. The Vikings have their own people working on it. And the question about, whether or not Grenard is a 4th or a 3rd kind of matters a lot. But the problem is, if Shaquille Griffin counts as a compensatory free agent, so there's a category of free agents that counts as hurting you in the compensatory formula, then it doesn't matter because they all stack up and they all cancel each other out and what's left is left. Mm-hmm. And so that's the interesting thing. I don't know. The formula is really complicated. It's a secret. It does change by CBA. The best publicly available information we have is over the Cap. And honestly, I'm going to trust them until I've got some other reason not to trust them.
Yeah, until proven otherwise. Yeah, well distilled on your part. We can get more into this on the next show, but we have to run to get on the 24/7 stream. So that's Arif Hasan, Wide Left. I'm Sam Ekstrom, Locked On Sports Minnesota. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for watching and listening on Locked On Vikings feed. We'll talk to you next time. No show Thursday, but we're back next Monday on the Minnesota Football Party.